Too many different people, too many cooks in the kitchen. We need to regroup our efforts, come together, one program, all our resources in it, just like solve the homeless problem once and for all. A final solution, if you will, but not like that. But that would solve things, but that's not what I'm saying we should do.
I made that as a throwaway joke at the start, being like, hey, Lauren, if you want just like a 2-second piece of advice, here's like, it just sounds like you're airing grievances about how you want to kill all the homeless people. But I was like, that's just me being obviously inflammatory and hyperbolic. I'm exaggerating. Like, you don't literally, oh, okay, never mind. Sorry. I didn't take things far enough. You do want to kill all homeless people.
We live in a very dark and very absurd world. And no matter what, we got to remember to laugh. So let's do some laughing now. Let's introduce our next person coming up on stage. We're going to have a good time. Everybody welcome Lauren Chen.
I haven't seen this. I've seen really bad stand-up before. I've seen Dave Rubin's entire stand-up set. It's beyond cringe. I don't know if she can top him. I'm curious. I've also seen Count Dankula's. It's also very, very, very profoundly bad.
All right, how you guys doing tonight? You good? Yeah. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be with you. I'm so happy to be in Austin. This is an amazing city. Are you guys from here? You locals? Heck yeah. That's so awesome. You guys, you clean up amazing, okay? You barely even look homeless. It's just good for you. Good for you. But no.
That's a bit of a gamble. Going right for the insulting the audience out of the gates. They don't know you yet. You got to build a rapport, right?
I do love Austin.
Well, maybe they hate homeless people enough that they're like, yeah, we do have a lot of ugly homeless people here. She's right.
Last time I was here, actually, funny story, I saw a homeless guy walking what I thought was a small dog on a leash. Turns out, no, giant rat. So it's one of those fun Austin stories that I have. Love that. Love nature.
Oh, that was a joke. Okay, so yeah, that's one of those, like, you got to workshop that one because you can't surprise people with the punchline. You can't be like, I was walking down the street and I saw a person with what I thought was a dog, but it was a rat. Because they're homeless and poor. You guys are great.
Sure. This morning, was eating on a patio with my toddler. Throughout our meal, had 3 different homeless people come yell at us, which is like basically the Austin version of dinner and a movie. It's, you know, entertainment as you eat. Oof. Good stuff. But no, it is really sad seeing all these homeless people, and my heart goes out to them. And I honestly think that being homeless, that's got to be one of the worst situations that a person could be in, frankly. At the same time, though, not popular to say this, as bad as it is, I'm sure, to be a homeless person, also not great to be around homeless people, right?
Oh my God. I knew it was gonna be bad. I didn't know it was gonna be this bad. She's like just obsessed with homeless people. You can't, like, okay, so she's what, 4 jokes into the set? Jokes, I'm using the term loosely, but 4. I think the only one that even remotely landed was kind of her opener. I think it caught a couple of people off guard. But then since then, now she's going into the long diatribe story, which is a risk. You have to have been, I guess, successful enough as a stand-up comedian to have brought the people in where they will have the patience to tolerate a longer story so you can get to an even more effective punchline, which again is a gamble that some comedians take. But she's doing it right out of the 4th one after like 2 bombs in a row too.
Am I saying we are the victims here? No. But it's not nothing, right? It's not nothing. Like, I don't want to be the
You're also not making jokes. I think you're just airing grievances. Do you know what a joke is? To get up on a mic and be like, look, I'm not saying that it's easy to be homeless. It looks really hard, but it's also pretty tough to be around homeless people. Someone with a house, multiple homes, actually. I got a lot of houses. So, like, you know, they make me feel kind of icky and they don't smell good and I kind of hate them and I want to burn them alive. And sorry, I feel like I'm just kind of airing some things that me and my husband have been talking about a lot.
Person who can't afford dinner, obviously not. But I also don't want to be the person who gets mugged to pay for dinner, and I feel like that's fair. I feel like that's fair. But no.
It's not a joke. You're just airing grievances. Fucking, is this like a NIMBY convention?
But I just, the problem I think is that over the past few years, people have decided that the worst thing you could do is be offensive. It's
just standard right-wing comedy. No, because those right-wing comedians, you know, like there's the redneck comedy tour where they're making jokes. There's a setup and then there's a punchline, right? There's a target. Like even if it's not your cup of tea, if someone says you're such a redneck that your gun rack's got a gun rack, even if you don't think that's a funny thing, like I don't find that particularly hilarious, there's a joke there. I can tell that there's a joke inside there, right? It's not my particular style of comedy, but like there is at least an attempt at a joke, not someone just being like, yeah, you know what really sucks is homeless people because they're gross and like I wish they didn't exist and I hope they die. And like, does anyone else feel that way? Like, yeah, like that. There's no joke there.
It's to be insensitive. And if you don't think this is a problem, we have American cities now where people are so afraid of even being perceived as being offensive that they would literally rather live with human feces on the street than tell a homeless person to take a hide and crap in the woods. Like that is the level that we have reached, which is insane. And it's insane.
That's not a joke. Sorry, I think you got stand-up comedy confused with Karen convention. Yeah, I think you thought they were interchangeable.
Haven't seen that here yet in Austin, thankfully, but it's real. It's real. The feces in the street. It's not just a meme. It's actually happening. I don't know if you guys have been to Seattle, but it's actually a thing there. When I was in Seattle, I was there maybe 2 hours tops before I ended up seeing feces. Like to give you context, I saw feces in Seattle before I saw Starbucks in Seattle. Like that's how big of a problem it is.
Oh my God, that was the closest to another joke and you fucked it up. You fucked up your own line. And even that's like terrible. There's so much feces in Seattle that before I even got to go into a Starbucks, I had to walk into the poo store. There you go. It's now phrased as a joke. It sucks. It's a terrible joke. It's ridiculous, but
it is.
It's technically a punchline.
And it's funny because I've spoken to people who live in big cities about stuff like this because I suppose I'm a rube. I think that warrants some conversation. And the thing is, I feel like a lot of people who live in cities, they have a toxic relationship with these cities. It's the strangest thing. You'll notice it, I swear, next time you talk to someone who's actually from a city. But you can mention something that's bad about that city, and they'll acknowledge it happens, but also say that it's not that bad, and then hit you with something that's even worse. And this is something that I deal with people from New York all the time. Like you'll try to talk to them about the issue of crime, which is actually getting pretty serious in New York. You can say something like, hey, by the way, car got broken into last time in the city. It's pretty terrible. Are you guys safe? How do you feel? Do you think things are getting better? And I swear, they will turn around, look in the eye, and hit you with something along the lines of crime. Oh, you want to talk about crime? You're bringing up your car. Last week, my entire family was kidnapped. They shot their dog. They pulled out their fingernails, kidnapped my grandmother, then committed identity theft on her specifically. You're talking about your car. You shut your whore mouth, and you're like, okay. You're right. I'm sorry. New York is terrible or great. I don't even know.
Wait, what? Oh my God. I mean, who is this for? Anexperian? Yes! Fucking preach, spitting bars.
What they're trying to argue there, but it's pretty crazy. I've told that story about the feces to people who live in cities, and I get a lot of dismissive attitudes. I get a lot of, well, that's life in a city, you know.
And yeah, it's like, it's gonna be just, again, profoundly gross if you're a rich-ass Canadian YouTuber whose entire set is about vilifying poor people. Like, that's... So what are you going to do comedy on? Well, I was going to talk about the homeless and the poors and how they're covered in poo and they're drug addicts and then the criminals and then the homeless again, and probably wrap up with maybe a little bit about how homeless people are disgusting.
It's not normal. Thank you. And the thing is... I agree. Everywhere has pros and cons. That's fair. But I feel like not having crap in the street, that's a pretty low bar. And for reference, I don't know if you guys are following what's happening in Haiti right now, but it's basically, it's a failed state at this point, very little government, if any. There's actually reports of roving cannibal gangs eating people in the streets, and it's crazy. I was seeing these reports, I was watching videos about it, reading articles, and it's the dark.
For the love of fuck, make a joke. I think she's made 2. How much stand-up have we watched? I feel like it's been fucking 3 hours, but it's been like 15 minutes worth. And it's just like, you know, another thing I don't like? Yeah, Haitians. And also Haiti is a failed state. Also, there's poo all over the place. Have you been to Seattle? There's so much fucking poo. Also, they talk about crime as if it's not a real thing. You go to New York and they'll be like, oh, there's no crime here. And then it's like, yeah, well, my grandmother got raped and mutilated. So yeah, that's crime, I think. Also, there's poo.
This thing. In none of those reports, none of those videos, none of those articles covering the cannibal gangs, did I hear anything about feces in the streets. So it's almost, I mean, I feel like if the cannibal warlords can find a bathroom, so can the homeless guy. I don't think that's too much to ask.
See, like, you can feel there that there's kind of like the concept of jokes too. Like, it's stuff you'd have to workshop and turn into an actual, like, you have to structure it. And like, I get it. She wants to do super hardcore. You want to vilify both Haitians and homeless people in America simultaneously and be like, it's so ridiculous. Haitians are so brutal and savage. They actually eat each other because they're cannibals, but they don't shit on the street. You know, like, that's what you're trying to go for.
And it's kind of wild. You could actually have a Haitian gang member, you know, he's chilling, he's grilling up some torso. You put him in San Francisco, he's looking around the homeless encampment, he sees feces on the street, he goes, you people live like animals. And he just gets the hell out of there because he's not used to that level of degeneracy. We could do better. I'm just saying, like, we could do better. But, no, it is sad, and I feel like we need to be working toward a solution to this, and I think there are good people.
Yeah, no, she got scared. She backed out pretty quick. She didn't want to lean too much into her Haitian accent.
Out there who are trying to make things better. They're trying to improve things, but I think the problem is we're too scattered. Too many different people, too many cooks in the kitchen. We need to regroup our efforts, come together, one program, all our resources in it, just like solve the homeless problem once and for all. A final solution, if you will, but not like that. But that.
I made that as a throwaway joke at the start, being like, hey, Lauren, if you want just like a 2-second piece of advice, here's like, it just sounds like you're airing grievances about how you want to kill all the homeless people. But I was like, that's just me being obviously inflammatory and hyperbolic. I'm exaggerating. Like, you don't literally, oh, okay, never mind. Sorry. I didn't take things far enough. You do want to kill all homeless people.
It would solve things, but that's not what I'm saying we should do. Yeah. But no, I don't know if you guys know this, but I grew up in Asia. I didn't grow up in America, and it's crazy. We, like in Asian cities, we don't have the level of homelessness that you guys have here. It turns out when you start working at 5, by the time that you're 18, you have a pretty good nest egg, so you're quite comfortable.
I don't know which country she was referring to, but there's certainly a lot of countries that have done dramatic things to increase the level of people who have home ownership in their country and decrease poverty. That wasn't done because they killed all the homeless. That wasn't done because of child labor permission. That wasn't done because like kids can work at 5 years old. So there's no such thing as homeless people because child labor is the thing. That's not it. It's usually tons and tons of reinvestment into social safety structures, housing development, that kind of stuff.
No. They don't pay those kids, so that's not how that works. Yeah. Well, it sounds bad, but just from an American perspective, think of it as getting paid in experience, right? Just like a little fleet of interns who are making all your clothes. So it's fine. And actually, corporate America, if you guys are paying attention, I know there's a lot of controversy stateside about things like maternity leave. People don't want to pay it. Turns out, if your workers are all prepubescent, you can just sidestep that conversation entirely. So, you know, follow me for more business tips. But, you know, there's a lot of things in America that we don't have in Asia. One of them things really different, probably the most noticeable, is the amount of diversity that you have in America compared to Asia. I know there are probably people out there thinking, like, what are you saying? Asia's super diverse, it's full of Asians. Well, despite what marketing agencies may think, diverse doesn't just mean no white people, actually. It means diversity. And America has a lot of diversity for better or worse. Like, the first time I actually lived in America, it was when I was going to college. And that's when I realized how much of a melting pot it actually is here. And, you know, I was surrounded by people of different races who didn't look like me. And it's for better or worse, because simultaneously, I ended up experiencing something that I never would. And it kind of shocked me that I experienced racism firsthand. Turns out I'm not a fan of Mexicans, which was, I mean, news to me, but no.
Oh, sorry. Wow. It took so long to get there. So there we have, I think, the third joke, where it's like she was talking about herself the whole time. You didn't think she meant herself, but yeah, so, okay, cool. Turns out I'm racist. That's the punchline. I mean, her delivery is so bad that that might be the closest thing to a funny thing she thought.
The joke actually used to...
You have to explain the joke.
Yeah.
Please explain the joke.
be out Jewish people, but then I realized I like using banks, so we just leave it.
Wow. You got groans from your own right-wing audience on that one. Oh, I actually love that. I love that the closest thing she's gotten to making a single joke, to dropping a single effective joke, has been, yeah, turns out I'm a racist. I was the racist all along. And then right after that, she's like, I used to tell that joke differently about Jewish people, and I'm going to be like extra racist towards Jewish people now. See, I doubled down. I'm a racist, and now I'm diversifying. I'm not just a racist towards Mexicans. I'm a racist towards Jews as well. There you go. Good stuff, Lauren.
No, it's just, I'm sorry, Mexicans. It's just, you're a little lower. You're lower risk. You're lower risk. Like, what are you gonna do? Leave? Oh no! Don't self-deport. Stop. Come back. But no, the racial politics in the U.S., that's something that I haven't gotten quite used to. What really, I think...
People, by the way, they were always really confused when I would tell them that Lauren Chen is a white supremacist, because they would be like, but she's not white. And I was like, so people who aren't white, I don't know if you knew this, can be racist. People who aren't white can be extremely racist. And people who are not white can also reinforce racial stereotypes for the benefit of a white supremacist structure. Even if they're not aware of it, right? Like, they could just be proudly racist, as it seems Lauren Chen is quite, you know, just happy to be like, what are you going to do about it, Mexicans? Deport yourselves, lol. But anyways, I digress, you know, kind of shit. But absolutely she can.
I think it's so strange is the fact that when we're talking about race in the U.S., there's this tendency to group people into one of two categories, white and non-white. You know, the two races. Which is like, I don't know. I don't think that really works. I mean, the idea that me as an Asian woman or half Asian, that I would have more in common with a black man just because we're both not white, that doesn't really make sense, right? I mean, if we look at the...
Who says this? Who like, what weird version of understanding racial dynamics do you have in your brain where it's just like, so basically there's two categories, white and non-white, and anyone who's non-white is in the same category. And so doesn't that suck if you're not fully white to have to be in this weird category where you're suddenly associating with like people of other scary races?
The black experience, let's break it down. Way that your race affects your life, probably going to be more likely to be fatherlessness, right? More likely to be in poverty. More likely to live in a high crime area, maybe commit some of that crime yourself.
Oh no, YouTube, you're cutting out the racism. That's not because of like being like, hey, by the way, there's a lot of problems within a certain demographic or community. That problem comes because of the color of your skin. Is you're just reinforcing the racism. It has nothing to do with that. Like, ultimately, we're literally all the same animal. Every single one of us. We have different character attributions, more or less melanin, things like that. It's one of the reasons why you can have incredibly successful demographics that come from black countries, predominantly black countries. One of the most successful immigrant demographics to the United States is Nigerians, and that's something that really flies in the face of a lot of Lauren Southern's, concepts that, hey, if you happen to come from a black family, you're going to come from a fatherless home, and you're going to be poor, and you're going to commit crime, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, if you are living in a black community in America, or if you're born into one, you could be born statistically into areas that have more poverty. If you're in an area that has less high home ownership for a variety of reasons, we can get into the history of the racism, they might be less likely to spend a lot of money on the schooling system and have better schools, which are going to be harder then to get into higher education. It's going to be harder for you to be able to do well on standardized testing if you don't have tutors like a lot of perhaps white families do, stuff like that. It has nothing to do with because you're black, you're going to be more predisposed to commit crime. You're doing the racism. That's racism. That's just racism.
But that's different. Versus me as an Asian woman, probably the way that my race most affects my day-to-day is I got a lot of guys with anime profiles asking for pics, like feet pics. I mean, it's a problem, but it's a very different problem.
You were close to another. She almost had her fourth joke there, but you fucked it up again. Like, she's too excited to drop her own shitty punchlines.
Also, if I were to ever open a massage parlor, exponentially higher likelihood of it being mistaken for a brothel. Again, real problem, just they're very different problems. And I think if we... Man,
I don't know if she's worse than Steven Crowder, though, because this is basically, she's ripping off Steven Crowder's bit. It's just like every single 1990s racial stereotype in a really shitty stand-up delivery. That's what it is, right? Like, he's got his whole bit on how, I'm not Mexican, I'm Canadian. Mexicans are the ones who are outside of Home Depot. And she's like, yeah, as an Asian person, if I open a massage parlor, everyone thinks it's a brothel. Lol. I was like, you're both just listing stereotypes.
If we look at the way that we either say, you're white, non-white, that's how it is, especially when we're talking about divisiveness in American race relations, it kind of paints the idea that I think is a false idea that if white people were just removed from the conversation, everything would be fine, right? All the non-white people would just be having a blast.
What are you talking about? Who is asking for any of this? Who is like, so there's racism, it's a real thing. The solution to racism is for white people to never talk or learn about it. The whole problem was that people started trying to teach people who aren't racialized in society, say like white people, about how they're racialized in society, and white people took offense to it. It was like, hey, by the way, as a non-white person, I experienced racism. Whoa, that's anti-white racism right there. You're saying that I, as a white guy, am just by default racist. And you're saying that I oppress you? I don't even know you. Yeah, you hate whites. That's what this is. You're an anti-white racist. That's what I think.
Which, if you look at the areas in America with very few white people, just does not seem to be the case. Like, if we're being real. If we're being real. And I don't know if you guys speak with a lot of ethnic minorities, but one thing that they actually aren't usually too keen on is other...
I mean, normally I'd be like, oh no, but I think YouTube fucking up here is doing me a big ass favor. So her whole stand-up was basically just like, how long does it go for? It goes from 4:44 to... Oh, so she does about a 10-minute bit. The whole thing was basically just her airing racist grievances. And here's another thing I don't like. The blacks. Sorry, black people. You know what else I don't like is the Jews. Sorry, Jewish people. I meant to say the Mexicans. But you know who I really hate is the homeless, and I think they should all be eliminated from society. Kind of like the same way Hitler tried to get rid of the Jews. Clean up your room. Sorry, that was the joke. That was the punchline. I was joking. That was a joke. I was making a joke about how we should have a final solution for unhoused people. Yeah, real funny stuff, though. Kind of, on the verge of comedy.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/The Serfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Puppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincel, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.